to Everything Analog. My name is Matthew Kroll.
And they don't give Pulp Man of the Year to any old fool. My name is Shahir Dowd.
And this is the only podcast about movies, specifically the film No Other Choice.
You could have done that differently. You could have been like, we had no other choice but to do this week's movie.
But we had so many choices.
We did have a lot of choices.
That's the thing.
And a lot of choices that we still have to run through before we get to the end of the tax year, as it were, for the only podcast about movies. But
the
this week,
tax year, the fiscal year of talking about cinema.
Yeah, that's what it is. Unless you got another name for it, or
no, I just think it's funny.
Okay, all right, there you go. Well, I'm glad we're here to amuse you. The Golden Globes were this week, and there were some winners announced, which we can actually add to our list of talking points. Do you want to go
Nikki
through?
Glaser was the winner.
Did you watch it?
I just watched her opening, and it was absolutely brilliant.
Really?
Yeah, it was very, very fun.
I like Nikki Glaser a lot. I think she's very, very funny. I think she's kind of settled into the role that Ricky Gervais kind of had a few years ago, but like a little bit softer in terms of like she doesn't really pick on people.
Also
as far as I can
funny.
Tell. Yeah. Oh, you're not a fan of Ricky Gervais?
Not really.
Oh, Ricky Gervais has taken a turn, but the original Office was formative work for me.
Sure. Yeah. Like, very, very funny performance. I've never really, outside of that, I don't think I've ever been like, and I guess he was in extras, right?
He also wrote and produced extras.
Yeah. Okay. Like, it's good. I mean, it's funny. I just never really vibed with him, and I couldn't really nail down why.
Did you like The Office?
I've only watched a few episodes of that Office.
Okay, the British Office?
Yeah.
I'm a big fan of the British Office, so kind of formative stuff for me. But I know he can be a controversial figure. As Jamie and I were just talking about, there was a write-up in the New York Times this week naming his stand-up special, which was the winner of Best Stand-Up Special, being one of the worst ever in the history of the Golden Globes. So check that out as well. Let's just run through a couple of these awards here, just see if there's anything that jumps at us for a quick discussion. Obviously, Best Original Song went to there's no question here, right?
No, why? Absolutely not.
Yeah, K-pop Demon Hunters had Song of the Year. Cinematic and Box Office Achievement was not going to Mission Impossible this year. It was to Sinners, which makes sense. I think that's the major award that Sinners won, other than composition for an original score.
Yeah,
which Ludwig Göransson won. Fun fact: Ludwig Göransson and Ryan Coogler were roommates at USC. Sorry.
Oh, really?
Yeah, that's how they met.
That's neat.
Yeah, good for them. Let's go here. What else? Oh, sorry, I've jumped a page. Sorry,
you jumped all these pages.
I did jump all these pages. Let me see what we got here.
We didn't win Best Podcast. That's a spoiler. Yeah, Amy Poehler, I believe, did win Best Podcast.
I feel like Amy Poehler has won enough, and they should give some to the little guy, i.e., us. But whatever. She's great. I do like Amy Poehler. I've actually. Amy Poehler, Smartless. I have not actually listened to any episodes of those shows. I know they've got a lot of great guests. But I actually just have not. I don't know why. I don't. My podcast listening of late has really been either informational based or really highly produced.
Yeah, I feel like I do not gravitate towards things for guests. Like, it feels like all of the larger, like, celebrity driven talk show podcasts are all very. And today we have Glenn Powell or whatever, like, on the thing. And I think outside. Our boy Josh.
Yeah.
I don't really listen to any sort of interviewee kind of podcast things other than Happy, Sad, Confused.
Yeah.
I think most of my stuff is either informational or sort of either news or tech or comedy based, but not based on like this week we're talking to Sydney Sweeney or whatever. Right? Like
just to be clear, we would happily take Sydney Sweeney on the show.
I mean,
and Glenn Powell.
If they wanted
to come here and do and talk about what was that romantic comedy that they did?
They're not going to come if you can't remember the name.
I can't remember the name. Yeah, I haven't actually seen it. So this is why people we don't have good guests on the show.
We have great guests on this show.
Guests.
What? Whoa! Every guest, email us in onlymoviepodcast@gmail.com.
We don't have the Sydney Sweeneys and the Glenn Powells knocking down our door. Unlike our friend Josh Horowitz, who was on the red carpet. He also got the Tom Cruise cake this year.
He did. I saw that whole thing, which is so interesting to hear that conversation happening there when we've had it here.
Yeah. Good for him. Best screenplay for a motion picture went to Paul Thomas Anderson for One Battle After Another. It does feel like it's shaping up to be the One Battle After Another year for the Oscars.
Yeah,
and what have you
it's
as well.
kind of the perfect storm for that kind of thing.
Yep. Best director also went to PTA for One Battle After Another. Any like, do you have any residual feelings about like other nominees that you would have liked to have seen here? Ryan Coogler, for example.
I mean, Sinners, I think is easily in my top 3 of the year. One Battle is in top 5. I haven't like really nailed it down yet. Again, due to the fiscal year of Topam,
Right.
that list is ever changing and can change based on what we see in the coming weeks.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm not mad at One Battle After Another winning. It was an excellent film with, I feel like, I mean, you can listen to our episode on it, but I feel like worked on a lot of different levels and, had a better Fortnite tie-in than the whole bloody affair. So that's good.
Yeah. Those that is actually the key thing here.
I think
like
it is.
Best Fortnite tie-in of the year. Stellan Skarsgård won for Best Performance for a Male Actor in a Supporting Role in Any Motion Picture for Sentimental Value.
That's good.
Really heavily well-deserved. Tiana Taylor had, I think, what was arguably the speech of the night for her battle for One Battle After Another for Best Performance by a Female Actor in a Supporting Role. Followed by our boy Timothy Chalamet. Timothy Chalamet for Marty Supreme for Male Actor in a Motion Picture. And Female Actor in a Motion Picture went to Rose Byrne for If I Had Legs, I'd Kick You, which was on our list of
we have not seen yet.
What we could definitely do before the end of the year. I've really wanted to see that film. It played at Sundance when I was there, but I did not get to go see it. As mentioned with you last week offline, I think that and Die My Love would make a great double pairing if we want to talk about what it's like to be a mother in the modern world. Then we have Best Performance by a Male Actor in a Motion Picture. So drama. So Marty Supreme won for comedy. And this goes to Wagner Moura for The Secret Agent, film I'm also excited to see, is on our list of movies coming up. Actually, Izzy from Be Kind Rewind is interested in doing that episode with us. Best Performance by a Female Actor in a Motion Picture went to Jessie Buckley for Hamnet. Again, right?
Love it.
No complaints here. Best Motion Picture non-English language went to Secret Agent. Not to No Other Choice or Sentimental Value, which we haven't done on the podcast, but we will do Secret Agent at some point. And in fact, this year I think might be one of the few years where we will likely do all of the foreign film nominees, at least in the Golden Globe sense, before the Oscars.
Because we don't know what the Oscars are nominated.
We don't know, but it's likely this list. It was just an accident by Jafar Pahani, which we are doing next week. No Other Choice by Chan-wook Park. Sentimental Value by Joachim Trias. Sirat, The Secret Agent, and the voice of Handry Rajib. Sorry. Best Motion Picture Animated went to, again, no real question here. It was K-pop Demon Hunters, although Demon Slayer was a hot pick this year, as well as Chainsaw Man, I believe. Those two.
Did Chainsaw Man have a film?
They did, and they were both huge box office winners this year. Okay, final two. Best Motion Picture Comedy Musical or Comedy went to One Battle After Another for musical or comedy. And Best Drama, and we got to see our boy Steven Spielberg on stage, went to Hamnet.
Yeah.
Which I think has Hamnet got enough momentum to take it for the Oscars this year? I don't know.
I don't think so.
Yeah. Maybe.
It's excellent.
It is superb. I wonder.
It's dramatic.
It feels like One Battle After Another is going to steamroll through the whole thing, kind of in an Oppenheimer way. But I don't know. I could be wrong about that.
I'm kind of hoping Sinners does. Here's why I think Sinners is an interesting choice for the Oscars.
Mm-hmm.
So One Battle, even Marty Supreme, which came way late in the game.
It feels like those three movies are kind of shaping up to be the lead contender.
Sinners, I feel like, has had, because that came out March?
Yeah, a long time. It's stayed in the.
It still has the cultural cachet of discussion points that a lot of movies that when they drop in March just don't.
Yeah.
And when we get to here nearly a year later, and this is, I want to make it very clear, this is not a detriment to either Marty Supreme or One Battle, but I don't think that the discussion will last around those movies as long as it has Sinners. And I don't know. I again, they're all three are exquisite for different reasons. I really do hope that Sinners takes it, because I think Sinners has an energy about it that just cannot be denied by I'll even say this, a larger swath of an audience public than any of the other, and out of the three of those films, I feel like the Venn diagram of people who would go enjoy that and evangelize for it is the biggest.
Yeah, I think Sinners has the most momentum going for it. As you mentioned, it has lasted the longest in this public spotlight. I guess in a weird way, and I'm saying this out loud without really maybe quantifying it in any sort of meaningful way. But
That's the best way to do it.
It made the most money out of those three movies, and in a way that can work against it in the Oscar race.
Yeah, maybe.
Because it's like it's already won. So I don't know how that plays in. I'm thinking about things like The Dark Knight, which didn't get a Best Picture nom because it was like such a behemoth. So I don't know. Let's see. The Oscars get announced on January 22nd, so we will inevitably be here to
walk through all of it.
Walk through the entire thing. As you can gather by listening to us, awards shows aren't really our bag, baby. We definitely observe. We definitely comment on things that have won awards, but the only things that matter are the top 10 of the year for us.
That's right. Yeah, and that's the only award show that counts. We don't do awards, I guess. We have a list.
Yeah, it's only of the movies we've seen.
Yeah. Which also is all that matters. Yeah. I can't award or discuss a film I haven't seen in any meaningful way.
That does happen though. People do award movies that they haven't seen because
I know.
Yeah.
I think there should be a rule, but how do you enforce it?
My favorite thing about the Oscars is that I don't know which newspaper does it. It might be Variety or something like that. Does an interview with an Oscar voter like a couple of days before the Oscars, and it's always hilarious to like read how the Oscar voter kind of like tabulates their opinion, and talks about the fact like, oh, I didn't see this movie, I didn't see this movie, I'm voting for this one because my friend was there, kind of thing. So it's fun to listen to that. Should we jump over to some emails?
I think so. You take the first one. I'll take the second one, and then you take the third one.
All right, here we go. Alias writes us in. I'm sorry. I am an HFR sympathizer. Obviously, they are writing in to talk to us about the one HFR film or high frame rate film that we saw this year, which was Avatar, Fire, and Ash. Alias continues here, but I definitely agree that the film either needs to commit it to doing it 100% or be way more selective about when it is used. I'm fairly confident, for example, that most movies at the theater roll credits in HFR. You simply cannot roll credits as quickly as they do without blur becoming a readability problem. Actually, Alias, I've actually dealt with this as I've designed credits for other films as well. So
is that true?
Yeah,
nice.
I have. Yeah. So we typically don't roll the credits out at a higher frame rate, but there are certain rules to, for example, font size and scroll speed that apply.
Course.
Yeah. In Avatar, Alias continues here. In Avatar, I could never adjust to the inconsistency. My brain kept going from this looks like a video game to this video game is encountering performance issues. Hate that. You mentioned that HFR eliminates panning stutter, but there is another benefit, reducing unwanted motion blur from modern display technology. 24 frames is indeed a long-standing film tradition, but we can't forget that older displays technologies had blur reduction baked in. New displays do not. 24 frames on a modern display does not look the same as on CRTs or old-school film projectors. Film bumps, you're drinking grape juice, not wine. Torturing that analogy, HFR isn't like replacing grape juice with orange juice. It's more like, we don't have wine, so let's spike the grape juice.
Amazing. Amazing.
To keep it brief, I'll just say higher frame rates reduce blur on modern displays. It's one solution to the problem. Another solution is strobing, but that gets tricky to get right and hurts HDR performance. Happy New Year. P.S. I started to write a lengthy explanation about the physics and biomechanics involved here, but I thought it can't be read on air, and you already know all of this. I'm being patronizing. Or you don't know, but getting an unhinged wall of text is probably not a good look. So, but if you're interested...
Listen, I'll tell you this. You write that in, and I'll read it.
He has, actually. I emailed him back and said, look, you know what? I am interested. And,
all right. Well, we'll talk about it sometime. Maybe maybe that could be in our supersized best of year list. We'll actually read the technical specs of the ways that can be done.
It was fascinating. We had a good back and forth there.
Nice.
You want to take the next email?
I do. This is from Lewis. Lewis says, hi, both. I hope you are well. Happy New Year. Happy New Year, Lewis. I recently finished publishing a year-long 52-part analysis of Antonionis, Red Desert. I'm leaving that in.
All right.
Then there's a link to it, which I will check out later. I was very flattered in early 2025 when Shahir liked and commented on a couple of my Twitter posts. So I thought I would share the full contents page now that the series is complete. It ended up being 266,000 words long, plus 18,000 words of footnotes, 2,800 pictures, and references to 115 films, and around 190 non-film sources. Wow. He continues, so it's pretty unwieldy, and I wouldn't expect you to read it all, or indeed any of it. But if you browse through the summaries of the contents page, you may find something of interest. I would love to hear you two argue over an Italian classic at some point. I feel feel like Bicycle Thief, 8.5, or Blow Up would provoke some interesting collisions between your differing perspectives. I seem to remember you talking about Umberto D. What Up once upon a time. The ending of that film utterly destroyed me the first time I saw it, so it is a tough one to revisit. Anyway, love the podcast and looking forward to catching up on some recent episodes once I've got around to seeing some recent films. All the best, Lewis. Thank you, Lewis.
Thank you,
Yeah,
Lewis.
we've talked about Umberto D. Umberto D. is one of my, I think it still is at this point, one of my top 5 films of all time.
Mhm.
It is a movie in the past that has cracked for me wide open the concept of what I think a movie can be. And it is something that every time I revisit it, I'm enthralled and I just learn it. I seem like I learned something new. I believe, Shea, you bought me the Criterion Collection so long ago.
And we actually, now that I remember, we were on a podcast discussing Umberto D. I think it was Stephen Buge's Oscar Watch podcast. I feel like we
Did we?
I feel like we did.
Years ago.
Yeah, we're coming up on
Ancient.
10 years on the podcast
Yeah.
now, so it may have been 10 years ago. But yes, we have discussed that. I emailed Los back here. I've only seen a couple of Antonioni films. I've not seen Red Desert.
I'm not familiar with it. After all the commitment here of Lewis, I definitely want to check out that film at the very least.
Yeah, I've seen La Ventura, which is, a challenging piece of Italian neorealism or French neorealism. Antonioni from Michelangelo Antonioni, Italian. I
like that thought process.
Yeah, I know.
That was fun.
What's funny is that I said this to Lewis as well. Is like, despite not being that well versed in Antonioni, one of his films is a seminal film for me, and that is Blow Up, which I'm using as a reference for one of a film that I'm working on. So I have definitely seen that, and then as Umberto D is a major film for you, 8.5 is a major film for me. So it would be interesting to catch up on some classics if we have some time, perhaps once the slew of award season films go. But I will definitely post a link to the analysis that you've provided, and I will 100%. I'm committing to this now. I will read all of this analysis because I'm fascinated that you did that, and I'm very flattered that you would send that to us. And secondly, I have not seen Red Desert, so I'm looking forward to actually watching that. And
I commit to watching Red Desert based on your passion for it alone.
There you go. Final email comes in from Steven. My wife and I went to see Song Sung Blue and really enjoyed it. Back in the late 80s when karaoke came out without video and was on the Laserdisc, the pubs used to have a talent night and I would go on a circuit to sing. Don't You Forget About Me or Should I Stay and Should I Go?
Classic.
And it was always the same core group of us turning up to perform. Song Sung Blues reminded me so much of that. A community of unseen small-time performers who will never go anywhere but have performing in their blood. As someone who saw occasionally winning third place as a goal, the small wins they had, even as life waited to knock them down, really resonated with me. Good movie, and aside from everything else, a subversive and damning comment on the appalling American healthcare system, Stephen. Stephen, that is absolutely correct. I have not seen Song Sung Blues. Is it about Neil Diamond? It is a Neil Diamond.
No, it's a Neil Diamond impersonator act or cover band.
Oh, Hugh Jackman plays the Neil Diamond
Cover impersonator. Yeah.
I thought it was actually about Neil Diamond. So
it is not. Lightning and thunder.
But yes, we live through the American healthcare system and can attest to the fact that it is atrocious.
Yeah, you might as well die because it's not going great.
Getting worse every year. By the way, but for those who don't know this, and I don't know why you would, Matt is superb at karaoke. I have been to several karaoke nights with Matt, who does an incredible rendition of I Believe in a Thing Called Love.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
I forget if we've talked about it, but I've been doing karaoke for my birthday at the same karaoke bar, shout out Duet 35 in New York City, K-Town. For the past, I want to say this will be 17 years with 2 years blank for COVID.
Okay.
But it's I always try to get the same room. This year, my dream is to pull both front rooms. Last year we had too many people. We actually had to get a spillover room.
Right.
And each of the front rooms, I think, holds 23 and 25 people respectively.
Wow.
So my goal this year is to fill that place in the front completely with people I know.
Okay.
So we'll see how I'm going to start early.
Our birthdays are actually coming up, aren't they?
They are.
I also, as you were saying that, I was realizing that we actually share
Yeah.
like a birthday by a few days. So that is coming up as well.
So what we're saying, listeners, is get us something nice.
Yeah, that's right.
When April rolls around, that's when the presents come around. Anyway,
Tell us what Park Chan-wook's latest film is about.
the Internet Movie Database, and I think Shahir says, I'll start reading this description very shortly, but I think there's a large wrong thing here.
Okay.
Much like my pronunciation of saying wrong thing. Here it goes. They say, after being unemployed for several years, a man devises a unique plan to secure a new job, eliminate his competition. Now, was he unemployed for several years?
There's a funny jump. I don't know if it's several years in the movie, but there's a funny jump cut where it's like 3 months later and then they cut to 18 months later and he's kind of walking down the same hallway.
That seems like less than 2 years, which wouldn't be several.
It could have taken him a while to put together the plan, for all I know.
I don't know. I took this as like a much shorter span of time. It does not matter. It's interesting that that's the wherever this came from is either, where the script originally was or what actually happens in this movie. But I clocked this happening in roughly that essentially 18-month span.
Right. Sure.
Yeah. Mustache, no mustache.
Yeah, he does look.
I wish he kept it the entire time.
It is a fiendishly good mustache, and it is like there's only a couple of moments in this movie where like people comment on the fact that he's very good looking, and it's like I was like, has anyone else looked at this dude? Like, that is one of the most attractive, handsome men on the face of this planet.
When he was talking to Seth Meyers, he mentioned how attractive he was, and I was like,
really?
You get it.
Yeah,
it was very fun.
I was like, there's very few people that can get away with that, but when you take a look at Lee Bong-hyun, you're kind of like, I get it.
Yep.
This is a reuniting of Lee Bong-hyun and Chan-wook Park since Joint Security Area. Their first film, I think, in 20 years now at this point. Which is wonderful, given that how big that Joint Security Area was for those two as a breakout film. We have reviewed on this podcast The Handmaiden and Decision to Leave.
Yep.
But we haven't
I thought one other one.
We haven't done Old Boy.
We didn't do Old Boy.
Yeah.
Give me a second here.
we haven't done any of the
Decision to Leave was the other one. I was thinking of Decades Apart, but we did not do that. That's short.
Yeah, it's a short film. We have not done that. So I've talked about this on the Decision to Leave podcast. Chan-wook Park is obviously, arguably one of the great filmmakers of our time. Oh boy, I saw it at a really formative part of time in my life. I was also teaching Korean cinema for the first time when I saw that movie. So I was having to catch up and learn a lot about Korean cinema. I was TAing for Aaron Mannion Park, who's been on the show before. But so I was having to learn Korean cinema while catching up on a lot of Korean films at that point. And Oh Boy was, I think I mentioned this on the Decision to Leave podcast, was a film that came to me with a lot of hype. Everyone was like, this film is incredible. It's going to blow your mind. And I watched it on a really crappy VHS tape because I had to watch it in the middle of the night to catch up for a class that we were teaching that week. And I was genuinely like, this is quite possibly one of the greatest movies ever made at this point. Kind of really remarkable movie. Terribly remade by Spike Lee just a few years ago.
Yeah.
There was talk of I recall there was talk of a Joint Security Area remake as well, set on the American and Mexico border, which does not the same as the North Korea DMZ.
Not quite.
Not at all. So
give it time, Shahir.
Give it time. And Chan-wook Park has been busy aside from Decision to Leave, has also been working on a TV show which is airing on Amazon Prime, I believe, or maybe it's HBO. The Sympathizer with Robert Downey Jr. playing multiple roles. I watched a couple of episodes of it. It's incredibly beautiful to watch and to look at in every way that Chan-wook Park does. I found it a little exhausting, particularly over a couple of episodes. There's a lot of time jumping back and forth. Wow. Where you're just kind of like, wait, where am I right now? And then when it kind of like takes a break for an episode, I just found myself kind of a little bit exhausted by the whole thing. And then, as we mentioned on the Decision to Leave podcast, I think Chan-wook Park is an extraordinary composer of images. Like he makes extraordinary images, and he also knows how to connect images in extraordinary ways. The last two films that have really worked for me have been Stoker and The Handmaiden. I found Decision to Leave kind of a little bit not befuddling, but like just didn't quite connect for me.
Handmaiden was definitely, remembering them both, is the one that sort of stuck with me the most, I feel like.
Yeah, Decision to Leave, I famously on that episode, or not famously, I watched that movie in several little chunks as I was having a very, very bad week at the time.
You all remember
this.
Famously.
Famously. But I have revisited that film and it still kind of had the same effect on me, which I was like, oh, this looks pretty, but I'm not really connecting with this. A lot of his films post Old Boy kind of feel that way to me. I The Handmaiden and Stoker are the two that really, really work for me.
Yeah.
So I was excited. But I'm always here for Chan Wook Park. Like that, the high watermark of Old Boy. The thing that's unique about Old Boy is nobody has been able to replicate what he did there.
No,
like nobody's ever been able to make a movie like that.
And again, it's not the same, but I'm getting the same vibe or echo of even the conversation we were having about Sinners even beforehand, with sort of like the hype or the understanding of like, oh, this movie is. And I'm not saying time will tell if Sinners will have an Old Boy track. We can't even posit that.
Yeah.
But like, there is something to be said about a creator having a film that, oh, they did this one film and therefore I'll just see whatever they do
from this point forward. Yeah.
Cool.
It doesn't matter if it doesn't work it doesn't matter if I've been feeling the same way about a lot of his movies.
You felt this very one way incredibly powerfully at one point, and that is enough to sustain you for your cinematic going lifetime.
For the rest of my years, I will be here for Chan Wook Park. He was on the Daily Show recently, and I think there was this
Ronnie Chang?
Yeah, Ronnie Chang, and Ken Jeong, I think, came on as well.
Oh, Ken Jeong came on as a fake translator. It was funny.
It was very funny. But I think even coming on as a fake translator, there was like a reverence for the man, that you could kind of see there, that they were like, look, we know we're making fun here, but also we just wanted to be in the room
1,000%.
with you. Yeah.
I would say this. What I really appreciated was the Daily Show being the Daily Show and being like a big farcical silly fest. There was jokes and things like that, but you could the way you could tell that production respected him was nothing felt rushed, and the entirety of it was done via like real translator.
Yeah.
And oftentimes in late night shows, they won't have guests that do that, or they won't they'll really cut it short and make sure it is very quick. But this was very slow going, and it had a really nice flow to it.
I think there was there is a genuine reverence for him as a filmmaker, and I think it
Ronnie
really
was getting I think flustered, which was very funny.
Yeah,
especially at the end. I think he kind of flubbed the exit nothing bad or anything.
Yeah.
But he's normally so smooth and on it, and that sort of very brash comedic timing that he can just sort of get away with anything. And I felt like this is the first time I'd ever seen him nervous, and it was and this isn't a bad thing. I want to make it very clear. It was endearing. It was nice to see that on a large cable American show, that this interview was happening in that way.
Yeah. I think I would feel the same way, and would just have so many questions about all. I guess it must be maybe a little frustrating, but to have so many questions about that one specific movie that he made, even though he's had quite a long career with many incredible films on it.
Yeah.
And this is an adaptation of a Donald Westlake novel, The Axe, which has been previously made into a film by Costa Gavras. There was a tribute to Costa Gavras, and I think Costa Gavras' family may have been producers on this film as well. The film that the other adaptation, the French adaptation, is actually extremely difficult to find. I think the only thing I found was an eBay copy of a DVD from France. There's no streaming versions of it, so it's a little bit hard to actually find a copy of the original or the other version of this film. Donald Westlake is, of course, famous for writing Point Blank, which was the Lee Marvin movie, which, as I understand, Chan Wook Park is also an enormous fan of, and was the reason why he wanted to do this movie. This was originally slated to be an American film, but couldn't get financing up
for 15 years or something.
Yeah, as an American movie, so it was eventually made as a Korean film, which I don't think is a compromise in any way.
Nope.
Having watched it, it is a fascinating artifact about both the it's not the capitalist marketplace, but the actual sort of.
It kind of is
the working marketplace, the way the employee marketplace that we kind of all live
capitalism.
in. Yeah. And it's a fascinating look at that. And the most notable factor is, and perhaps you were doing this as well, was how do they afford to live on that salary the way that they do? Because as I understand, they're sort of line managers at a paper factory, right?
Yeah, but I think back then, the high-end managers, because I don't want to spoil sort of the end of the movie, but I'm not going to yet. The way the movie ends, is a dark twist on the way the movie begins.
Yeah.
And with him walking through and being, he was a manager, sure, but he also knew that place in and out and had the technical know-how of knowing how paper, like the chemical makeup of paper and how to make, like
he did have a chemistry degree.
He had a chemistry degree. He was highly educated in a very specific field and managed an entire floor for a paper company. I think that is something that is like that's, yes, he's walking the floor, but that's a high end position.
I guess the thing is that he even describes himself as blue collar, and
he liked to think of himself as blue collar,
but he lived a very the actual and as you mentioned, he walks the line. But the lifestyle that they live in, this would be a difference between Korea and the United States, was kind of like, their, violin lessons, a very, very nice house, there was a part of me going, we just live a very different world.
It still felt very middle class to me. Like I
upper middle class to me,
because like the house, while nice, was old, and he did a ton of work on it himself. He grew up in that house. Bad things happened in that house. And even the way it looks, it's a gorgeous house, there's no question, but like it looks old. It looks like it's seen some wear and tear. There's nothing wrong with that, but like it didn't feel like, I felt like one of the men later on in the play, in the only other house we go to that's not sort of like a rinky-dink apartment, that house on a paper man's advertising salary felt weird. That was a level of opulence I felt was odd. But I don't know. Maybe he's the social media darling of paper.
Yes, he was a social media star, and he had like, I think he was running a bar as well, or he owned a whiskey bar or something like that. So the actual, before we get into the actual what we thought of the movie, there was this movie kind of conjured up kind of some feelings I've been having for quite some time, and maybe we can talk about this very briefly. But like my wife and I have been talking recently, like we were asked a question about like the joys of work or something like that.
Sure.
Probably for one of my son's classroom things, and it was just notable that my wife and I had like very different experiences of what it meant to work and what it meant to work for other people.
Yeah.
Because so now, as I've discussed on the podcast before, I run my own company, and I enjoy that so much more than working for other people.
We're both technically self-employed.
Yeah, we're both self-employed. We both run companies.
Weird.
And
I feel like I'm 12.
The distinction between that and working for other people was really notable, because, and I say this because my wife, although she has been a CEO.
Say it like you mean it.
What's that? My wife?
There you go. Yeah, okay.
Yeah, my Borat wife. She has also had great experiences working for other people. Like, admittedly, she has a PhD, so her technical skill levels are far exceed mine.
Yeah, she's the smarty of us.
Yeah, she's the smartest of all of us. But like she has been in places that really value her, reward her work, where she has performed well and has been rewarded for it, and felt seen and that what have you, which is just kind of always been the opposite of my experience. Like I have often felt that while I'm very, very good at what I do, I often feel expendable, like very easily disposable in every place that I've ever worked at.
That's because many of our jobs, the idea of what we are doing, weirdly, especially in post and things like that, is to be invisible, which kind of sucks.
Not invisible, but disposable. Like easily, like I can do an exceptional job at what I do and be indispensable in the moment. But as soon as the project is wrapped, there's
no one gives you. I mean, that's the freelance life, right?
Yeah, and my point being is that this movie kind of conjured up that sense that he is kind of going through here, which is that he believed he was indispensable, only to realize he was disposable.
Yeah, no one is. That's the real
thing. And it's fascinating because he's kind of like, I guess, got into the lifestyle creep problem, which is that he has built out a life based on the employment that he has. And, for example, his wife doesn't work.
Yeah.
And, looks after the children and, takes tennis lessons, and there's violin classes, and they live they have a
special needs child who is a gifted person who needs like a $50,000 cello.
Yeah, exactly. And these are things that they can, comfortably afford on this single salary, only to lose it and realize that, what I thought was indispensable about me is disposable.
Very dispensable.
And you know why I found actually that sort of palpable sense of what the world that the film is conjuring, that sort of understanding of the way, I guess, capitalism or employment actually works, was far more palpable than anything I've seen from Chan-wook Park in a long time, and like really relatable. And so at this point, I was automatically on board because I was like, I actually really am resonating with the dilemma of this character at this moment, and where the story is where the story is set.
Well, again, I'm not even saying that this is like Park Chan-wook's sort of story either, but like there is a palpable, like, he tried making this movie for 15 years. Also, I think he kind of knows that a lot of his films are not as beloved as Oldboy. He knows he's good at what he does, but as a director, I think he actually said something in the Daily Show thing. He's like, as a director, you're always on the verge of being an unemployed man.
Yeah.
And that, like, you can kind of feel that energy in the way, not only in the characters of this movie's journey, but like the way this movie feels is always like, shit. Yeah. Oh boy. Like,
and that's an underlying sense of emotionally resonant characterization that I think I hadn't felt for in a while with his films. I did quite like Stoker. I've mentioned that a couple of times. And that is a film that kind of like gave me a sense of unease that I really, really liked. But you know, The Handmaiden and Decision to Leave, I kind of felt are very tricksy movies. They're sort of, there's a point where I'm watching both of those movies where I kind of feel like everything is an elaborate chessboard for Chan-wook Park to kind of maneuver around. Not one where I'm kind of like interested in what the characters are doing. Right. I'm just more excited about like, what's gonna happen? What is the director of this film, whom I'm admiring, what's he gonna do next? And I guess that's also one of the successes of Oldboy, which is that Oldboy is filled with a sense of regret about the kind of person, you know, like Ojose is before he gets captured for 15 years. That's a fantastic movie. And I think, you know, like that is the sort of high watermark of this of this filmmaker. So I really found that the ether that this movie kind of inhabited was palpable and powerful and had something to say. And I kind of felt like there was an energy, like you're describing, an energy to it that really, really worked. And then the thing that kind of really, really landed for me watching this, and I do think this is the most successful film for many years, one that really worked for me, was that it was really funny. It's like really devilishly funny about, you know, very dark subject matter, but like in a very, very funny way. And while it kind of still kind of does the sort of tricksy narrative turns and twists that he's kind of known for in terms of like how he unveils story, it actually really did work for me in this particular instance. I was on board with the kind of the procedural of how you're going to murder your coworkers or, you know,
your peers,
your competitors, I guess. And also like the small reveals that the characters have about Mansu's life, and you know, his family's life as well. I think this is actually, one of the ones that really, really worked for me. I found, and I was also really surprised by how much the audience ate this thing up.
Oh yeah, everyone's having a great time.
Everyone was having such a great time watching this movie. It was a lot of fun. I don't know how, you know, did that kind of...
No, I very much love this movie. I think it speaks to not only stuff you brought up about even like the freelancer economy and like the way, like the joy of work and like all that stuff and how we've all experienced feeling expendable in what we do and that sort of line of thinking, but also just, I mean, I'm not going to go deeply political into this, but like the state of the world is you're one bad day away from having to make something like decisions that you'd never think that you'd ever possibly do.
Yeah.
And this movie has that energy in it throughout. There's even, and I think it's interesting because it's not like he doesn't snap.
No.
He's goes
very rational.
He goes through, well, as rational as you can be when you're deciding to kill your peers. But the way that it handles his journey of not being able to find work and then becoming a bit like sort of like pathetic, going to like the bathroom and waiting for the guy and like begging. And then his idea of possibly just killing a dude right away. It's that picture that we used in the thumbnail, and that's the main one of him holding the flower pot on the edge of the roof.
The person who was going to buy his house.
Yeah. Like, no, that's not that guy. It's a different guy.
It was that guy. He was following him, and then he was following that guy.
No, it was the guy. I'm fairly certain it was the guy he ends up killing at the end of this thing because he was about because he was about to kill him, and then he realized even if he kills the guy who has the job that he wants, there's more people that are more qualified that will get the job before him. So that's what I loved, because he didn't not kill that man because it was the wrong thing to do. He didn't kill that man because it wouldn't get him at that moment the thing that he wanted, and he realized he had to kill the sub bosses before getting to the final boss.
Fair, yeah, no, you're remembering it correctly.
And that was the moment in the movie that it turned for me where I'm like, well, I can't agree with anything this man is doing, but
I'm on board.
but the logic of how he's doing it is something that is the way my brain works. Yeah. So if I was pushed to an absolute edge and had to do something awful, I would be the person who's like, well, I can't do this awful thing first, because if I do, it's not going to get me there. I have to do 9 other awful things before that even makes sense.
Right.
And then I was like, okay, I'm on board with this psychopath's journey.
Yeah.
And I really liked that. Again, he didn't snap. This is a man who's pushed too far, but not like there's no like what. It's not like falling down. It feels very like fluid, and he also is not like, he doesn't become like an absolute badass. He fumbles his way through everything, and the only times he ever does anything that like actively kind of is structurally better at the job of the murder is based around things that he already sort of knows how to do. There's a section in this part, again, we're now deep into spoilers, where he can't bring himself to chop up a body. So what he does is he works with trees and bonsai, and he uses cable and wire to maneuver branches in a certain way in his greenhouse.
I had no idea it was that easy to like bend a body that way.
Yeah. If you're not worried about hurting someone or breaking someone, you have enough cable. Yeah, I think that I was like, dear, that's
where there's horrible. A will, there's a way.
So like, and I also liked the way that this film portrays his journey through it. Like, I like how much time it spends on the procedural area of him figuring out who he has to kill, the least amount of people he has to kill before killing that guy.
Yeah.
And then when he goes through them, there's sort of like different stories, right? The first time this goes through, and I'm trying to remember the actor's name who played the first guy. I think is that Bomo?
Yeah, Bomo.
And that's right. Lee Sung-min.
Yeah.
He is a paper man, but kind of who has fallen on harder times longer ago. And he is an alcoholic who is completely like the farthest gone version of our main character.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah, every character is like an alternate version of him.
Yeah.
In like 1 or 2 years, and like that's fascinating to watch.
Yeah, and so there's a whole subplot with his wife, and that guy's wife is cheating on him.
They do live in a beautiful home, like in the middle of the forest with like snakes around. Granted.
Yeah, and there's like the outside's pretty shitty, but the point there was that whole situation went on so long. And I liked this. I thought, like, is the whole thing just going to turn into just this guy? Like, I thought we were going to stick there for a while. And then when we didn't, and then when he eventually gets offed, it happens in such a way that it actually, like, isn't entirely, Mansu's fault.
Yeah, and eventually it'll come back to be like the sort of icing on the cake in terms of how his plot actually.
Yeah, and it's not a plot; it's luck. That's the other thing.
It's a very talented talented Mr. Ripley kind of way of doing things.
And also, so I got to do a shout out. I think actually, Son Ye Jin, who plays Miri, his wife, who plays Mansu's wife, is an absolute phenom. She gets to do. She sort of transforms in a way too, and I really like. I like the story of their romance. She was a single mother, and she had a son who was 2 years old, and then they got married, and they've had their problems. He was actually abusive to his stepson, and then he got clean. He's a recovering alcoholic, and it seems like, as much as one can, he had sort of turned his life around. He went to school, became a paperman, and all that stuff. But the the methodology of like, well, where do you find that stability? Where do you find that self-worth? Oh, it's in your work. Oh, that's gone.
Yeah.
And what I really liked, honestly, I liked this very much. So spoiler alert, kills 3 dudes.
Yeah.
But he actually, throughout all of it, until the 3rd one, when it is absolutely necessary to complete the job that he needs to do, he does not fall to drink. He ends up in bars sometimes to talk to people. He's drinking apple juice. He even fakes the beginning of that 3rd murder, pretending to drink until he absolutely can't, because he knows that,
that's his trigger.
That's the thing. The thing that I didn't quite connect with was when he finally does snap with it, it doesn't actually seem to impair him. It actually gives him...
It's like Popeye. He's got superpowers.
It's almost like a superpower now, where he's had a toothache the entire time, and he rips the tooth out after he's drank a little bit of his own mouth with some pliers. And I like the toothache analogy. Like it makes sense. And then, at this point he's freed and to a certain point.
It's Tom Hanks in Castaway.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, but I didn't love that the alcoholism, which we see a lot in this movie, is prevalent for one main character that eventually gets killed. Very prevalent for our main character. It is a long running thing. It does turn into a bit of a Popeye spinach moment, and maybe there's some. And this again, I think that Park Chan-wook is so skilled and adept at telling nuanced stories that I imagine the payoff of this is lost somewhere in translation to me. But I thought that was in a movie that is so I will say thoughtful. And also so thoughtful that it can be funny about a lot of dark, awful, abysmal topics, that alcoholism at the end of the day turned into a bit of a punchline. And I didn't. Did you get a different read? Because I'd love to sort of see like.
Well, I think if I backed up a little bit from reading the alcoholism as like not necessarily a punchline, but as like the power, it's the final precipice of when he's kind of decided I'm fully embracing a version of myself that would do this.
But he's already murdered.
But he's fumbled through those murders, right? Like
not the second one.
I think it comes down to the title of the movie, No Other Choice.
Sure.
In those first 2 murders, like the movie, several characters throughout this movie say there's no other choice. And they're saying it in a way to try and convince themselves that there is no other choice. Like when they know fully well that there are other choices here, we're just kind of down the road of these. In that final murder, I don't think he's trying to convince himself anymore. And that's, to me, the alcohol, not necessarily an analogy, but the alcohol part has kind of pushed him over the precipice to who he can become. And then there's a sort of bitter irony of that, which is that he is a man alone. By the end of the movie, he is working. He's got the job that he thought he would get. He has grown the mustache that he has always deserved his entire career. But now he is alone in a factory where there are no other people because the lights need to be off for AI.
I was really curious, and we'll get back to sort of the thing I was at the thing before, but I was really curious how this movie was going to handle comeuppance.
Yeah,
because it's hard to have even a character that you like that goes around murdering essentially innocent people.
Yeah,
the level of innocence,
without a doubt. Yeah.
And then have them sort of win at the end, but then how do you, what is that?
That's the Talented Mr. Ripley. That's the sort of beautiful analogy in the Talented Mr. Ripley, which is that he gets away with murder, but has lost his soul in the process.
Yeah. And so now he is now stuck in the thing that he originally was just so afraid of anyway. And now that's it. He did all that for literally nothing. And now he has to live with all the bullshit.
And also, this is a man who really has devoted his energy outside of work to growing trees or to growing plants. Like this is what he actually cares about.
Yeah.
And there's a sort of a beautiful analogy in that, which is that his grandfather, who owned the land that the house was originally on, had pigs that died, I think, or got sick, and they had to be buried underneath the land that they're in. And that's what's, grown their crops or their trees for a while. And he is now a man that is kind of like living in a world that will destroy the thing he loves around him.
And he has to live in a world where one of his trees is being literally fed by the decomposing body of one of the people he murdered.
And it's
probably
yeah.
the I won't say most innocent, but the one I felt the worst about.
The shoe salad. Yeah. Because he was like such a nice guy.
He also had a daughter.
But here's the thing that I would back up a little bit on and think about that I found really fascinating and I really liked as a characterization is that his you mentioned he doesn't snap. There's a real like and this is a terminology of the last 10 years, but there's a real cuck vibe to this guy, which is that he is perpetually humiliated by both his work, by eventually his wife and his wife's like relationship, potential burgeoning relationship with her new employer kind of thing, who's actually a dentist and can fix his tooth.
Yeah.
But he's like, I'm fine. Thank you. There's sort of a perpetual humiliation of this guy. And it's the same for the other two characters whom he murders, they are, the second guy works in a shoe store and is like desperate to get a commission on a sale for one pair of shoes, when we kind of rightly know that we live in a world where most people don't even go into stores anymore to buy shoes and that what have you. So I kind of found that what was interesting about him is that he's not played as the man of the house kind of thing. He is a provider who is kind of like ultimately humiliated several times over, and like the cuck thing kind of does come into play as well. As like, he's like, he wants to know if she wore which panties she wore when she was dancing with the dentist, and he's like, and even when she gives it to him, he's sniffing just a tick, which is kind of like a humiliating, like thing. And I'm like, oh, this is a guy that really doesn't have that capacity to kind of like stand up for himself or, like even in the interviews that he has, he is like not, he is in no way authoritative about the things that he knows about. He's just there to do what is needed. And
he also gets in his own way. Even the first interview, his buddy says like, all you got to do is say what you're bad at. And he's like, nothing. And it's like, oh, fuck.
And so the alcohol is kind of like, to me, the interesting thing there is the alcohol is like him kind of like trying to regain some of that power. Like he makes a choice there that is like, I am going to do this, and
maybe,
what's odd about it, what's really odd about that moment is like, he kind of almost gets another opportunity there until the alcohol gets given to him. Like there is like,
that's a good point.
He is, and he has an opportunity to go another route, but he takes the alcohol and he's like, no, I am reclaiming what I've wanted to do. I've set a plan for myself.
Yeah, maybe that's a better read.
And I'm going to execute on it.
I forgot about the guy was like, oh, we could be partners and do the thing. And
whatever. You could, and he actually like even manages to convince him, like, you could give me a job, like you could ask this and this could all work out for each other. And that guy is kind of an alpha male in the scenario. He is like, not an alpha male, but like someone who has like claimed his own destiny in some way, like he has like made a choice for himself and has followed through on it and is in control of his own life, like whereas everyone else is like powerless against the forces that are around them. And so I found that was like the moment that he takes a swig, and it's an incredible series of shots as well, again, in that sort of amazing Chun-Wook Park way, like the bomb shot where it's beer with a chaser inside of it. And, there's a shot where it kind of like all goes in, the camera tilts. It's beautiful stuff. But like, that was the moment where he was like, I'm doing this and I'm doing this for me now, like I am going to murder for me. And then the irony of the film, the sort of morality tale of the film is that he is now trapped in that world and he will never be free. And maybe for a time, he will see himself as indispensable, but he's ultimately in a world that is self-destructive and won't have room for him maybe in like 5 years time or anything like that. And I think that's the kind of like beautiful irony of the whole thing. It's not quite The Talented Mr. Ripley where, he gets away and he finds love and then he has to kill his lover.
Yeah.
But I found that
he has to kill his darlings.
Yeah. But I found that reading this as a guy who is not capable or, like somewhat secondary to the forces that are around him.
Sure.
I found that read kind of actually played for me.
I mean, I'll say this is a movie that I like that. I like that. I like you've talked me back from the precipice of finding the one thing where I'm like, I don't know. Like, I actually think that explanation
he's
of it.
Constantly humiliated.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was going to say, this is a movie, and so this is sort of a transition into it. I think I will love rewatching like 5 times.
Yeah.
Like, I think this is something, and I don't know if this is just with exquisite foreign films because they're not seen in the language that I can fully understand and like catch everything as quickly as possible. Like, I'm sure I miss things.
Yeah.
And
the translation is not going to be one to one. Yeah.
And so I think that rewatches, and oftentimes in those movies that I like for foreign films, often bring other things you come up with that you don't know before. So, but like, I just think that this is a film that is designed to reward that sort of rewatchability.
There's a lot of stuff going on in this movie as well. And you know, this is one of the things that I think I've had difficulty with Chan-wook Park or Park Chan-wook in recent years is that he tells stories in a sort of throwaway way. You know, like there's a plot line devoted to his son's escapades and stealing phones, for example, that feels like it comes out not necessarily out of left field, but like feels like it's thrown in a little bit awkwardly.
I think he's trying to tie his life in like it like basically make his very stable life interrupt into this essentially murder spree, because the whole thing is the kid goes steals phones from the dipshit dad who is on the other side who wants to buy the house from his store. They get caught. They have to try to I think it also tests the relationship because I know that Miri's trying to like seduce him to get the kid out of trouble.
And she uses her sexuality in that scene, and he's aware of this, you know?
He's aware of this, etc. And then the fact that the son is then they have this cool father-son bonding moment where he lets him keep the cigarettes, and then because of that the kid goes up and smokes on the roof, and then he sees him with the tarps with a chainsaw on a foot. And and so then when the kid tells the mom he thinks he saw his dad doing something like that in the greenhouse, then this gives us some very interesting information due to a side plot, and that is, as an audience member at that point that Miri is kind of on his side.
Yeah, and
that tangent allows you to realize, even beyond like there's nothing happening with the doctor. Like, she actually does really love this guy, even though this is a fucking awful situation and he's treating her poorly throughout the entire thing. So, I really liked that because she is well aware by the end of this movie that he has probably murdered someone and that person is probably buried in their yard. Yeah. And I will say this.
She knows that for a fact. Like, she feels it. Yeah.
She, I think, then sort of caves into the like, well, I'm going to be here for my family at the very least. And you're not quite sure where she lands, but you can kind of move in a direction where Mansu's not going to be happy where he landed, and therefore this entire thing will eventually sort of fall apart.
Her daughter performs for her, you know, like
there's joy. She gets joy in another thing, which
and she's aware that like this is the price for what I want, which is my daughter to perform.
And the fact that he got that, this is such a weird sort of like this is why this happens. He got the job back. Yeah, they got money. They can afford to feed the dogs. The dogs come back. Yeah. They make the daughter so happy that she allows the mother to hear her play the cello. And it's like there's so many small moments of interconnection of life sort of happening all over the place.
But there was no point where I was like, for me, the dogs were like the major MacGuffin of the movie. I was like, okay, we've gotten rid of the dogs. The one entity in this film who would be able to dig up that body. You know, like,
they do have one tiny moment, but it's nice that they're like, oh, shoo.
Yeah, exactly. And so, like, I was like, those dogs are digging up that body.
Yeah, 1,000%. That tree's not staying there.
Yeah, the next rain that comes, that body's coming up.
Yeah, get some cement, guy.
I think that is, like the sort of the tragedy of the film in some way is that he has kept his marriage in an unequal partnership where she basically does not interact with him about his work. She's not interested in anything about it. But like what we clearly see is like as soon as the job is gone and she's the one who kind of like steps in and starts kind of managing the household and making the choices. There's a really funny gag there about like cutting Netflix, for example. And, you know, like we're cutting my tennis lessons, we're cutting all of these things.
Gardening magazines or whatever.
The dog, you know, the car where we're selling the cars. She's the one who kind of like takes control of the household. And the sort of tragedy here is that if he and her kind of worked together, if he had kind of let her in, she might have advanced his career in a sort of more profound way because she's well aware of what you need to do, as evidenced by the scene where her son gets arrested for stealing phones. the first thing she does is take off her bra, put on lipstick. She's like, I'm going to handle this situation in sort of a sort of like profoundly effective way. And by the end of the movie, they sit back to an equilibrium where he's going to be alone in this pulp factory. She's going to be off on her tennis lessons, but she's happy about like listening to cello, her daughter perform cello for her. That is going to keep them apart, and that is also the tragedy of the movie. It's sort of a fun tragedy. It's a funny, ironic tragedy because I'm also like not there is a distinction between this and The Talented Mr. Ripley, which is the sort of the genius of The Talented Mr. Ripley is like, I am concerned that Thomas Ripley is going to get caught. Like, I'm always like, what's going to happen when he gets caught? In this movie, I'm not concerned when he gets caught. I'm like, well, he's going to bumble his way through this situation and he's probably going to get, like, I'm not invested in his success as much as like the genius of Talented Mr. Ripley is like, I'm invested in the success of this murderer. But it does really work. And I think, again, coming back to the sort of the thing I thought at the top of this is there's a sort of a wonderful ether to this movie, which is like very aware of the world that we live in and very aware of the situations that most of us find ourselves in. For me, again, personally, having dealt with this conversation about like how fulfilling have we found work in the last, I've worked for people for the last 25 years or more. And I have found that I have often felt it's a piece of advice I give to people who come to me for employment advice. I was like, you will think that you're not dispensable. You will think that you're indispensable, because you do a good job and you care about what you do and what have you. But I was like, but let me tell you, there is nothing you will do that will make you not disposable.
I'll actually flip that around a little bit.
Right.
I agree on principle.
Yeah.
I think there is one thing that can make you as close to indispensable as possible that they don't teach you in school or they don't
sort of take control, you own.
Well, sure, but also let's say you
seize the means of production.
Let's say you don't do that, right?
Yeah.
Like say you can't for whatever reason.
Yeah.
It is honestly this sounds so like cutthroat in a weird way or Machiavellian in its sort of planning, but you need to be essentially from your management and from your peers popular. You need to be liked. You need to like, I go back to, there's two reasons why I think I kept getting work at MTV way back in the day. And look, I'm a fine editor, but there's a fucking metric buttload of those. So why did I keep getting called back? Two reasons. One, I think I'm kind of personable. I think I'm a fun person to work with in an office environment, and management and people at my same level seem to enjoy me around more often than they don't. I can be a bitch. Of course, that's the whole whatever.
Right.
But the other thing is I also had a gimmick. I didn't mean to, but I did. I wore a long black trench coat and had black nails. And literally those two things, they remember the young guy who has black nails, and oh yeah, he's kind of fun to be around. Right. And those kind of things I do. That's the advice I kind of give people in the we are all dispensable.
Yeah.
Make sure you aren't forgettable. And that's the closest you can do to, and it's funny because I'll bring it back to this movie, in the situation of Mansu, his workers, the people around him and under him like him, but management can't identify him. Right. And it goes back to what you were saying before. He's kind of a man that is a bit of a cuck. He kind of is. He has no like control or anything. Like, his bosses aren't inviting him out to drinks. They're not like hanging out.
Yeah.
So like, yeah, the commentary that this movie does on sort of not only capitalism, but like the value we put on our jobs and the value our jobs put on or do not put on us is utterly fascinating.
Yeah.
And it is wonderful that it can be told in a way and in a story that is obviously crazy, but you have a moment where you're like, I mean, it's not that crazy.
Yeah.
Like it's the one bad day or one bad 18 months thing.
Yeah. You can identify parts of this world where it's like, I've kind of been there. I may not have murdered someone and I may not be thinking about murdering someone, but I've like definitely been at that moment.
Yeah.
Where it's like, geez, this is really going on for a while.
Mm-hmm.
What am I going to do here? And, like, he's older, he's like, and, again, Lee Byung-hun is incredible looking. He's 55.
You're just looking at him as Storm Shadow in G.I. Joe 2009.
He's fantastic. But yeah, he is, the thing is, like, I think in that culture and in that work environment, his subservience and his like, I guess whatever
Energy.
that energy is,
His BKE
has like served him well. You know, like he's been there for 25 years. But it's not that nobody wants him around. It's just that the industry doesn't need him anymore. You know, like they don't need someone in this place. Like he is, by the end of it, he's trying to avoid being run over by artificially controlled, like machines that can do his job better than he can.
Sure.
And he's only there to provide some semblance of humanity in case things go wrong.
Sure, yeah.
But other than that, you know, like the propulsion of the world is against him. And the ending of the film, where we're just seeing trees being, you know, hoisted up and stripped entirely, is that propulsion of the world. Sure. He's not, you know, and inevitably he is going to be. I think watching this movie, he's out in a year. You know, like 1 or 2 years, he's done again. You know. At best, you know,
automation will come for us all.
Yeah, exactly. And then there's a sort of beautiful irony about the fact that the movie is set in a paper factory. You know, the one industry that like really is going the way of the dodo.
Yeah, I mean, we're doing wedding invitations, and it is very interesting dealing with paperweights. And
and there's got to be a moment where you're going, do we need to do this?
Yeah. Well, we are.
Yeah.
Anyway, this has been the only podcast about the film No Other Choice, when we did have many choices for films to do, but we chose to do this one. Shahir, when you are not choosing to make no other choice but this one, where can folks find you?
You can find me drawing my Venn diagram and scratching out both sides on my website, suvanova.com. That's SUVANOVA.com. Matt, when you have determined that the only way forward with this podcast is to murder your other podcaster in the room, where can people find you?
You can find me saying that's a terrible idea and I shouldn't murder them until I figure out who else I have to murder to get other co-hosts onto this show over at my website, Extra History and Extra Credits. Please check out the good works doing over there. I believe by the time this airs, what is even coming out? I think this is actually a dark week, so you can go back and watch our first Tyrants episode on you want to talk about murder? Jesus Christ, Leopold II of Belgium. Holy shit, what a piece of crap, to put it lightly. But yeah, we got that going on over there. And then we have our video game difficulty episode over on Extra Credits, written by Jenna Stieber, who we should get on the show at some point. She's a very good video essayist, and I know she likes film as well. So we should get that happening.
We do have a guest coming on for next week's film, Jafar Panahi's film. It was just an accident, which I've been excitedly going back through Panahi's back catalog, which is currently a sort of retrospective of him at on the Criterion Channel, which you can watch quite a few of his films. One of his movies that I saw, The Mirror, the second film he made, blew my mind. Yeah, like absolutely, like destroyed me and blew my mind in a way that I didn't think was possible. It surprised me in a way that like it made me rethink what movies were. So
it was your Umberto D.
Yeah, in many ways, yeah. And it's a movie that'll stay with me for a while, so I'm excited to catch up with that. And yeah, we've got plenty of movies.
It's things. I don't think we're going to get to stuff like The Bone Temple, which I'm hearing super.
No, I would love. I do think in the mix of like finalizing 2025, I think we should definitely make an exception for Bone Temple because we started 2025 with
28
years later.
Yeah,
and I think it would be really worth including that in our wrap up for the year.
We can try. Maybe we can pull double duty one week to try to like hurry up. I don't know. We'll see how it works out. Actually, this month and the beginning of next are the slowest I think I have until the end of summer when the wedding happens. So maybe we can try to do that at a certain point.
And Nia DaCosta has pulled double duty as well. She's got another film, Hida, which is with Tessa Thompson, which is on Hulu, I believe. So it'd be interesting to see how her post-Marvel years are going.
And I don't want to do this in the podcast, but I do want to still see The Running Man. I'm going, now that it's streaming, so I can go watch it.
You go watch it. You know what? You can watch it for yourself. You can happily watch it and maybe give us like a little summary of it. I'm interested to see it.
What if I watch it and I'm like, I never tell?
I'm interested to see it because I like Edgar Wright.
Yeah.
I know you love Edgar Wright. The Running Man was like one of the Schwarzenegger movies that like, you know, made me love. It
sure was one of the Schwarzenegger movies.
I remember it being a lot of fun. And then thinking back about it, not having seen it in a while, prescient about where we are as entertainment, So curious to check that one out.
So many films to talk about, but you know what? We're done for the day.
Email us in, Only Movie Podcast. Tell us what you want us to watch. Bone Temple or catch up on some 2025 movies.
Yeah, do that because you have no other choice.
Bye.
Bye.